My name is John Gant. I am president of ICCF. We have a very interesting program today, which I'm actually, because I grew up in the area, and Marriott started in this area, and my dad and my uncle still tell me about the hot shops and the hot dogs and everything else. It's a great story. I don't know if Mari's going to tell the beginnings of Marriott in the area, but it's we're sure lucky to have them here today, and obviously our good founding partner, Conservation International, to also tell the story of working with their partner Marriott in pushing for sustainability. Just before we get started, I will answer everybody's question who keeps coming up to me and say, John, you don't look yourself. Well, Walker and I just got back from Berlin and Paris, and I feel like we haven't slept in about 5 or 6 days. But we had a lot of good discussions over there with MPs from the G20 discussing the upcoming World Legislators Forum down in Rio, discussing sustainable supply chains, and it was very informative. So now I don't need to answer that question anymore. Anyway, we've got a video to start off with called The Direct Connection with Jill Siegel, Jill, right over here, who helped produce the video, is in the room. It's a video put together by Conservation International discussing the direct connection between international conservation and the U.S. economic and national security interests. And it's a wonderful video, and it's also available on their website. So I think we'll start this off.
There is a direct connection between international conservation and America's economic and national security interests.
There is a direct connection between international conservation and America's economic and national security interests. Hello, I'm Rob Walton, Chairman of Walmart Stores and Chairman of the Executive Committee of Conservation International. With the world's population expected to grow from 7 billion to over 9 billion over the next 40 years, doubling global demand for food, water, and energy, the United States and the rest of the world face enormous challenges. We must ensure that vital natural resources are protected and that ecosystems that supply us with essential goods and services, such as fresh water and food, are responsibly and sustainably cared for. International conservation plays a vital role in protecting these ecosystem services and is an investment in American workers and U.S. competitiveness. For example, many international conservation programs help stop the illegal extraction of natural resources that unfairly compete with American products. Stopping illegal logging alone could have a benefit to the U.S. economy of at least $500 million annually.
There is a direct connection between international conservation and America's economic and national security interests. I'm Wes Bush, CEO and President of Northrop Grumman and board member of Conservation International. The ability of our planet's ecosystems to provide the essential services of nature to human beings is fundamental to our global and national security. As the Earth's population grows, we know that we will stress nature's ability to support people. Competition for natural resources can lead to instability, conflict, and mass migration, and leave populations vulnerable to radicalization. If we fail to act, this stress on our sources of food and fresh water will translate into a threat to our national security. But we can make a difference through science-based efforts to ensure the health of our ecosystems that provide us with renewable natural capital. A failure to make these investments, which have very high returns, would have terrible consequences, burdening future generations with a level of risk that simply is not acceptable. Secretaries of State Baker, Powell, and Clinton, General Zinni, as well as the United States National Intelligence Council, all have publicly recognized that the security challenges of the future include the threat of resource scarcity. International conservation secures vital natural resources and protects ecosystems and the essential services they provide to people. This is a national security investment that supports regional stability. It cannot be deferred. The security of our children and grandchildren depends upon us acting now.
There is a direct connection between international conservation and America's economic and national security interests. I'm Harrison Ford, Vice Chairman of Conservation International. Billions of people are threatened by vulnerable and depleted ecosystems. The ability of our planet to keep up with the needs of people for food and fresh water is diminishing. Fresh water, natural pollinators, fertile soil, and sources of life-saving medicine. These ecosystem services cannot be replicated at any cost. They are essential for the benefit of humanity. Most major U.S. companies have undertaken sustainability efforts with real metrics and real investments to achieve their objectives. These programs have continued even through the economic downturn when many other investments were curtailed. But these companies cannot do it alone. Continued leadership and support for international conservation programs from the U.S. government is crucial. It might be tempting to defer these investments because of a smaller federal budget, but the risks are too great.
Protecting nature's assets is of strategic importance to our economy, our national security, our well-being.
I'd like now to introduce the main part of the program. Justin Ward, who runs Conservation International's Center for Environmental Leadership in Business, is here, who will say a few words and then introduce our special guest from Marriott. So, Justin.
Thanks very much, John. For those of you who may not be familiar with Conservation International, we are a not-for-profit, non-governmental organization founded in 1987. So we're currently celebrating our 25th anniversary. Our mission is to empower societies to sustainably and responsibly care for nature for the well-being of humanity. We have field offices in 30 countries around the world, mostly in Latin America, Africa and Madagascar, and the Asia-Pacific region. And our global headquarters are here in Crystal City in Arlington, Virginia. I think there's no question, as Rob Walton, Wes Bush, and Harrison Ford highlighted in the movie, that resource pressures, resource scarcity, is directly connected to America's economic and national security interests. There's no doubt that ensuring sustainable supply chains and protecting essential ecosystem services such as fresh water and food is critical to U.S. businesses and the overall economic prosperity of the United States. Since the beginning, over the last 25 years, Conservation International has understood this and has worked collaboratively with businesses, recognizing the critical role of the private sector in driving environmental innovation. And through our Center for Environmental Leadership in Business, we have implemented joint projects with leading companies such as Starbucks, McDonald's, Walmart, Office Depot, Disney, and Marriott International. The business case for international nature conservation, in my mind, is self-evident, particularly for the hospitality industry, which depends upon healthy ecosystems in key travel destinations to meet the expectations of customers and shareholders. And at the same time, the maintenance of healthy, sustainable economies worldwide hinges upon a vibrant hospitality sector as a source of jobs, income, and services that enable people to experience the wonders of the world's natural heritage. 4 years ago, next month, in April 2008, Conservation International joined with Marriott International in the company's announcement of an ambitious framework strategy for corporate sustainability. Now, at that time, Marriott had previously distinguished itself as a sustainability leader in the travel industry. But the new strategy that was launched in 2008 raised the bar with ambitious new targets for energy and water use efficiency, sustainable construction standards for hotel developers, sustainability guidelines for Marriott's multi-billion-dollar supply chain, and incentives or various initiatives to encourage and educate associates and guests on nature conservation. And Marriott's actions at this time earned the company a well-deserved Global Vision Award from Travel and Leisure magazine. Of special significance to Conservation International, Marriott's sustainability actions have extended beyond the company's hotel properties to include investments in conservation in the Brazilian Amazon through a $2 million commitment to the Juma Sustainable Development Reserve, and more recently in 2008, together with Conservation International, the launch of the Nobility of Nature program to safeguard fresh water in the mountains of southwest China in Sichuan province, where the project is working to improve water quality and rural livelihoods in communities in Pingwu County. What has been remarkable over the last 4 years since the April 2008 announcement is that Marriott has made steady progress toward achievement of its sustainability commitments and the targets that the company set for itself at that time. And this progress has occurred during a period that has been, to say the least, challenging for the hospitality industry and the entire global economy. I believe this is a testament to the strong conservation ethic of the Marriott leadership, and it also confirms Conservation International's strong belief that business needs nature to thrive. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mari Snyder, Marriott's Vice President for Social Responsibility and Community Engagement, who has been instrumental in the company's sustainability efforts and a key champion for the Marriott Conservation International Partnership. All right.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with you, and I'm making sure that my BlackBerry is here so I can track with time, because I know that you have a lunch hour that we want to try and stay pure to. Thanks for the warm introduction, Justin. I really appreciate that, and it's great to be here with you all. Just a starter, since we're right up the road from Washington, D.C., our home global headquarters is in Bethesda, Maryland. And this year we have a great pleasure of celebrating our company's 85th anniversary of starting as a very small business enterprise, 9-stool root beer stand that many of you who are based in Washington, D.C. or may have been born and raised in Washington, D.C. were familiar with and are often telling us Marriott associates of those early days where from the 9-stool root beer stand grew what were known as hot shops restaurants. And they served hamburgers and orange freezes and ice cream sundaes, and there was a whole cult-like following. Now, I'm from Pennsylvania, so I never got to experience the hot shops restaurants, but I can tell you that there are aficionados amongst us for that early start to the business. But in the 50s, we branched out into hotels, and it was Bill Marriott, the current president and CEO, that had that idea to do so. And from there, we experienced significant growth. So here in our 85th year, we are a company in the upper half of the Fortune 500. We have $11 billion in sales on an annual basis. There are 300,000 people who wear a Marriott name badge today around the world. We are in 70 countries with more than 3,700 hotels, 50 languages spoken by all of those associates. And so it's wide and diverse. And this past week, I had the pleasure of going down to Haiti, which is going to be our newest market in 2014. And I think as we heard the opening remarks, that's a market where you see the economic development, the environmental sustainability's importance, the jobs that are created to help a country recover, and for the investment that's needed in that type of country to put it on a safer and more promising path. So with that, I'm going to just explain that my role at Marriott as Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility has a focus on, say, 3 lines within my function, as I like to think of it. So we're going to talk about environment today for sure. But just want to touch a little bit on the fact that, I have a focus on Marriott in society. So our work in human rights, on what we can do for particular communities in which we are going into or already have a number of operations. So we're constantly looking at what can we do to invest or to have our associates volunteer. What can we do from a societal perspective? That Haiti hotel is a big focus of mine for the next 2 years, and economic development in other places around the world. As an example, we are not yet in sub-Saharan Africa, so we're excited to see some hotels open in the next year on that front. Lastly, stakeholder engagement is a significant part for me. So when you think about a publicly held company's stakeholders, this is everything from our shareholders and investors to our business partners. Our business partners are many. There are owners, our franchisees. Because we have a business model in which an owner will own the asset. They own the real estate. We manage it on their behalf. And sometimes, with many of our hotel brands, we are franchising it, so they are running it to Marriott's brand standards and flag. We have our associates. I told you 300,000, that's a lot. And so to attract the best talent and retain them, because a high cost in hospitality is labor turnover, we want to make sure that they have pride in our company and that they think we are doing all we can from an environmental perspective, from a community perspective, and investing back in their hometowns. And then, of course, the public, our customers, our guests, the communities in which we operate in. So it's a very broad, diverse set of stakeholders. And the environment is a significant focus for all of those stakeholders. So let me tell you a little bit about why sustainability is good for business. But in case you're curious, because I know some of you have just come back from Costa Rica, this hotel that I'm showing you, where the water is out here to the left, is our Los Sueños resort in Costa Rica, a beautiful place that I hope to get to soon. So I thought that was certainly a location that where environmental sustainability is very significant. So why is sustainability good for our business in particular? I think many businesses would probably tell you the first couple of bullets on this list. We're looking to create greater shared value, stronger communities, stronger markets to operate in. We're looking to mitigate risk, protect our operations, our communities, our markets. And when you think about this from the most core perspective, hotels are in the business of dealing with Abraham Maslow's lowest rung, right? Food, shelter, safety. Food, shelter, safety. If we don't have a sustainable marketplace, a sustainable planet, those things are at risk. Food security is at risk. Fresh water. Getting the fresh water to the markets where it's needed so that migration doesn't necessarily occur. Those are the things that are at the most critical crux when you look at some of our marketplaces. Third bullet, growth within current and new markets, creating jobs, economic opportunity for the value chain. This is where public-private partnership is critical. I'm going to talk to you about 2 or 3 of those where government, the NGO sector, and our company is working together effectively. We're looking to improve profitability. Okay, this is core business, right? This is about increasing revenue, decreasing cost, increasing the profitability. And when you work on behalf of owners, you are looking to increase their value all the time, greater shareholder value overall. And like I said, we're always looking to attract, retain, and motivate and develop our employees, providing the best-in-class customer service, because that's our competitive differentiator. And then lastly, improving the economic development and opportunities, an engine for frontier markets. I mentioned Haiti. You know, this is a country that doesn't have trees. It has, you know, we had torrential rains for 2 of the 3 nights that we were there last week. In addition, and primarily when you think about people sleeping under tents and tarps still to massive levels. But then you also see that there's really the erosion off of their mountaintops comes down into the streets, blocking streets, rubble, trash, things get washed into the streets in a way that I've never seen before. So these are areas where public-private partnerships are just essential to really helping an entire societal restructuring and focus on how to run the society from a business, government, and NGO perspective effectively. So like Justin said, we've been working with Conservation International now for quite a number of years. So before we made those announcements of our strategy and goals, we had worked with CI for probably about 7 months or so, looking, and Conservation International actually worked with our team in architecture and construction to determine that we wanted to empower our hotel development partners to build greener hotels. So we evaluated how best to do that. They worked with our engineering team to measure what was our current consumption, energy and water, and then what could we set as a good goal. So you'll see the first one there, 20% by 2020. And actually we increased that recently, changed that recently, because it originally was 25%. We had actually started to achieve that goal. But then an interesting thing happened when each company set its own goals 4 or 5 years ago. Then our customers, meeting planner, let's take the meeting planner of a professional services firm. They want to shop us. They want to see what the best locations are, the best value, et cetera, but they also want to see who's handling sustainability the best, who's conserving water, energy, et cetera. They need a standard. So we can all set our individual goals, but as an industry, we came around a round table to decide what the methodology and the standard metrics were going to be that each of the hotel companies would report on. That's in progress now. So we actually reset our goal to be in line with that standard. So if you come down here, of course, you can imagine how many suppliers we have in our value chain. So we are working to green our multi-billion in USD supply chain. And then, of course, as I told you, the associate count is pretty significant. We have 645,000 rooms in our system right now. Last year we built 210 hotels. So when you think about the number of guests who are potentially staying with us on an evening basis, we have a lot of reach that we can communicate with and potentially get engaged. One of the struggles in the hospitality company, though, is that many people think that they're on vacation when they stay with us, so they can maybe take a longer shower, maybe they can get those fresh, clean sheets, because who cleans their sheets every night, right? So that's one of our challenges, to get consumer behavior to change. And so you'll see we actually just did a refresh of all of our customer interfacing cards in our hotels. Not everybody turns on the TV when they go into the room, so we try and make a very small, impactful card talking about what they can do to join with us and other guests in helping to conserve water, energy in the country and market that they are visiting. I would say that those 4 bullets are something within our operational sphere, right? We can control that, kind of. But largely, that's something that Marriott can do. It can influence its business partners. It puts it in its own inner strategy. Part of the company's culture, though, has always been to kind of go beyond the hotel doors. We want to be, I mean, our business is based upon that, right? We want an outreach and to be as inclusive as possible. And so part of what we decided that was going to be in our sustainability strategy, and many other companies were not doing this. They were focused mostly on their energy and water consumption and the supply chain. We wanted to stretch a little bit and say, we're going to make this a healthier planet by which people can travel in. And so we wanted to invest in some conservation. We actually considered our conservation portfolio. So we have 2 major projects now on rainforest protection and water conservation. How's everything going so far? Good? Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay. We're gonna start picking up the pace now. So here are some of the results that we've had over the last few years. You'll see that we reduced our energy and water footprint 12% in energy and 13% in water from 2010. 2011's calculations are taking place right now and haven't been made public, but we do that through our sustainability report and online databases that are available for public disclosure. To our baseline, we have reduced energy 20% and water 29%. So we're doing very well, and our engineers reassure us that we are online to go far past our goal. And then, as I mentioned before, we help to generate, because our customers wanted and needed this, industry collaboration. So we're working with International Tourism Partnership based out of the UK, World Travel and Tourism Council, other US organizations that brought us together as an industry, and there's more than 20 companies, including our major US hotel competitors, that are participating in that roundtable, so that our customer can say, okay, here's the Anaheim Marriott versus Hilton Beverly Hills versus Starwood, IHG, whomever, and they can see what's the conservation within each hotel. So we want to compete. So let's talk about those green buildings. This is a big driver, our energy and water conservation, right? So the next one is about building a greener hotel. Now, we've always been good about resource conservation. 3 decades of history on resource conservation. Building, we have to go further up in our chain. This kind of gets us into more partnerships because we don't build on our own. So what we focused on doing was new construction. And we decided to partner with the U.S. Green Building Council. We were the first member several years ago in the hospitality industry. We became one of their first lead volume program members. And we've developed their pre-certification program for 5 of our brands. We just announced the 5th brand has their pre-certification. So what this means is that we have developed the blueprint so that an owner of a Courtyard hotel can take this blueprint off the shelf, and without his own time to design, develop, hire an architect, all of that, we have a blueprint ready for him to go. He can add on, he can get up to a higher level of LEED certification, but essentially he is saving $100,000 USD, 6 months in design time, and then of course the consumption of the energy and water in the go forward, and that can be up to 25% in some instances. So we have 13 hotels LEED certified, 76 registered for such in our new construction. Now, one of the things that companies do, and ours is very committed to doing this, is that you have to practice the way, right? So our headquarters building, which you see there, it's not the prettiest, but it is it was built in the 70s. And I'm very proud to tell you that our management team got that to a LEED existing gold status. So when our owners and our partners and our franchisees come into our headquarters building, they see that we've accomplished with an older building to achieve LEED gold. We also have 30 LEED certified engineers and architects on staff in order for those hotels to be built accordingly. Here are some of the things that we're doing to green our supply chain. We're a member of the Hospitality Sustainable Purchasing Index, which is helping to certify what hoteliers will tell you is FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, to more sustainable metrics. We're working with vendors when we're saying, okay, when we buy furniture, when we buy linens, what is it that is, how can we ensure that we're sustainable from where we source cotton down to putting it into the hotel room. We also developed a Future Fish Sustainable Seafood Standard, which is implemented globally now. So with an eye, our chefs are some of the most sustainably focused, of course, in the business. And then some of these other things that you know, energy light bulbs, plastic key cards, polyester foam pillows spun from recycled water bottles, room-ready towels. Towels that you use in a hotel a few years ago used to mean that you would have to clean the hotels before we would put it in our guest rooms. Now, according to a new, because of a new process that we use, we've saved 2.5 million gallons per year throughout the supply chain. We didn't say that it's happening in another company before it gets to our hotel. It's based upon the process that we're using to create and make the hotel, or the towels. So those are some of the things within our operations. Here are some of the investments that we've made in some major markets that we're going into. As Justin had mentioned, we really looked at CI as a great resource for us. So not only did they help us measure our impact and help us set up our strategy and goals, but they also helped us identify what some of those projects were that we could really invest in to have that would meet several of our needs that I had told you on that first page. Where are our business opportunities? Where's our growth coming? Where can we have the biggest impact from an environmental perspective, but also a business perspective? Of course, Brazil is a market that's significant growth for us in the coming years. We only have 4 hotels in Brazil right now. We are going to have 54 hotels within 10 years. We're actually going to develop a Fairfield by Marriott green hotel model built according to U.S. green building standards, and we'll be rolling those out. So we originally made a philanthropic contribution to Juma. It was a $2 million investment to preserve the rainforest, to stave off that illegal logging, to ensure the peoples who are living in the rainforest were protected. They actually have a significant involvement in this project. Part of it is they have a Bolsa Floresta program to help provide skills for them to produce Brazil nuts and crafts and things like that. Because the Amazon is one of the most critical resources on the planet. And so here's how we're infusing a more sustainable model. I mentioned that we started with philanthropy. We actually tried to get some of our business partners to invest with us, and we secured some of those. But going forward, when we build one of those Fairfield by Marriott hotels, part of the deal is that it will infuse cash into that rainforest protection program. So what we've done is we moved from strategic philanthropy into economic development. So we've gotten a more economic sustainable model as well as a environmental sustainable model for Brazil. And quite frankly, the Amazon has a broad environmental impact. So let's go on to China, since I covered all those bullet points. Now, we worked directly with Conservation International in identifying this project. China's significant growth for hotels, and quite frankly, other American businesses, other businesses around the world. We announced we'll have the 100th hotel in China shortly, and we are building at a rapid rate. But if you look here, fresh water, if no action is taken, the 2030 projected population and income growth will lead to a global water demand, 40% in excess of current supply. And nowhere is this more profound than in China, where the largest source of fresh water on the planet is found, and food insecurity is significant. And when when there's flooding, it impacts rice production, et cetera, and we can see some significant impact. So in May of 2010, we pledged $500,000 over 2 years to support a water conservation program in Sichuan province, helping to protect the largest source of fresh water. Again, significant growth happening in China, 1 hotel each month for the next 3 years. So when you think about hotel development going up in China at that rapid rate, investing in that country is a pretty good thing to do beyond just your business. We looked at public-private partnerships to, oops, sorry, hit the wrong button. Sorry, I should have just kept my finger right there. Sorry about that. Thanks a million. So we created a public-private partnership with Conservation International and the Chinese government, particularly on the local level in Sichuan province in Pingwu County and Yinjing County. And this program will become self-sustaining, but it's focused on water, forest preservation, support for local communities, and panda conservation. Now, back in our hotels in China, we're still working on those efficiency standards that we're trying to reach. And those hotels are newly built, so they've got the best engineering going in terms of, really getting to those levels. But it also, in China for hospitality, and other companies too, attracting and retaining talent, PRC associates, is a significant challenge. So we don't want to incur those costs. We want to invest in our associates. We want them to learn our business and come up with us for their careers. But it's so competitive over there that they, often are shopping for other opportunities. So one of the things that we are really proud of is that we can demonstrate that not only are we trying to run our hotels more sustainably and focus on the associates as we do worldwide, we also are investing in the China community. And in fact, we have Nobility of Nature ambassadors now in our hotels. And we actually do use this as almost as an incentive program. So we took our Nobility of Nature ambassadors, you know, young people largely, to see one of the projects. And this is really, you know, as you saw here, this is about, you know, organic honey and giving people more sustainable livelihoods. So instead of cutting trees down or farming and whatnot, there are other options that are less intense on the local environment, which allows for greater access and flow of fresh water to their communities, and then, of course, to the major cities further along to the east. So they've never, in some instances, many of our associates were never really outside of their home cities. It could be Shanghai, it could be Chongqing, and so we took them to Sichuan province with us to see this model program. And so they're some of our best advocates for not only what we're doing in their community, in their country, but also then what we need to be doing in our hotels to conserve water, conserve energy, and convey to our customers. And in fact, some of the best communication to our guests is done in the China hotels because it's such a significant program. We recently, before I move on actually, just so you know, we have two major projects there. The first one now has the local people who are involved in organic honey processing and other small projects. They've quadrupled their income in just 2 years. Because they are selling their honey in our hotels. So, major point, sorry, forgot about that. The honey that you see produced has been packaged by our distributor, shipped to our hotels through our distribution lines, distributed in our retail stores or merchandised with our coffee and tea shops and whatnot. And now we recently introduced, I'm sure you all know when you get your room service trays to for your breakfast and whatnot, you'll have small jars of jelly or whatnot. Well, we have them now in small jars. So it's a full virtuous cycle of what we invested in these communities, how they have created a more environmentally sustainable livelihood. They're producing organic honey. As you saw in the video, we know that we need pollinators, right? We need fresh water to be preserved. This is a project that helps on that front. The honey that is produced then is sent to our hotels, distributed, which of course is a customer and associate communication message. And the revenue that we get from the honey that we sell, in fact, in the last year or so, raised enough so that our first project received a pickup truck, which they badly needed in the mountainous regions in China. Because Sichuan province is right at the source of fresh water. The Asia Water Tower feeds the Yellow, the Yangtze, and even the Ganges River in India. And so in the flow down through all of those tributaries, it is extremely mountainous. It's some of the most mountainous landscapes that I've seen. And it's quite incredible. It's also a region that, you know, suffered from the earthquake, so they need very good, viable solutions for their long-term livelihoods. So this is all of this feeds into what we're really trying to envision for our company, and we share this with our associates, that we're trying to be a global hospitality leader that can demonstrate how responsible hotel management can be a positive force on many different levels for our own portfolio, create economic opportunities around the world. And by example, we hope to inspire others, whether it's our suppliers, our associates, our business competitors and industry colleagues, or hopefully you in the room today. I'm happy to take some questions, and thank you so much for having a conversation in regards to some of the work that we're doing.
Anybody have any questions? We've got a microphone here. I think that microphone over there.
Hey, I was just wondering what the impact to the rates would be because of the lead. Will Marriott take that, or will it get down to the ratepayers?
You mean the customer and the guest, correct? It is not getting. Rates are determined upon your market, and so in other words, if you're in Crystal City, they are running revenue management reports on a daily basis to see how the fluctuations are taking place. So it's really, it goes into a pool of hotels, if you will, that they're competing with. The investment right now, it's a 1 to 3% investment for the owner in the upfront. So by the time the hotel opens, we actually don't have that significant of a cost to incur. I haven't heard of any of our hotels who are LEED certified having any kind of pushback from guests because of rate. One other thing that I wanted to mention, oh good, we have another question. Great.
You mentioned water use and the restrictions over the next, I guess, 10 years. What, for existing hotels, can you do? Because a lot of what you've talked about are future hotels, but what are you doing in the existing hotels, and how can you reduce water use there?
Yeah, so we're working with a lot of our suppliers on that. So Snyder Electric on the energy side. There's actually a large company that we work with on water management. And so we will go in. We actually have a what we call a Marriott retro commissioning program. I did not brand that, but that's essentially what we do, is an audit or an evaluation of our hotels. And oftentimes we'll look at, okay, the size of a hotel, the market that it's in, the climate that it's in, and is it, above or beyond? And if it's above in terms of conservation or efficiencies, then that's a best practice. If it's below, then we might do an evaluation of where is it, what's happening there. And so we actually see great returns from this because we will give an owner a profile of some practices that they can do, from a lighting efficiency perspective, lights that go on and off automatically when you come into a room, water in terms of landscaping use, gray water use, we actually even talked about our Haiti hotel last week about water capture on the roof. So we will do an analysis of what the built environment allows us to do. We will make a proposal to an owner, and it is, it basically is a proposal for them to have a capital expenditure. So, we have also, I want to share that, I'm very pleased that we've had the results that we've had given the economy over the last few years. To say, we all know that every industry has had its challenges. When you think about owners of residents in hotels, oftentimes they might have 20 residents in. It might be an ownership group that has 100 to 200 of our hotels, and it can be a Courtyard, Fairfield Inn. And by the way, they can own some competitors' hotels as well. But when you think if you're either one of those franchise partners or ownership groups, or a small individual, you might have 5 or 6 hotels. Some of our owners were suffering from, debt services. So, we have to be sensitive to those that already have a built environment. And so we have different levels of what we can offer them. Sometimes, though, as the engineers often say, it really is the devil in the detail in terms of, where you might have a leak that's, that you weren't aware of, or, you kind of have to follow the course back to several different levers. Environmental projects within the United States, of the like of a preservation project out in the community, if you will. Not currently. No, I think right now we're focused, I think, a little bit more for the U.S. perspective in terms of our operations, helping the new hotels build to LEED standards, the full-service hotels, or the 5 more select and extended stay, and then operationally, what are those programs that we can do? We have, a variety of whether it's our food and beverage team, our events team, our operations team. There's multiple programs that we run to try and get greater efficiencies on the energy front, the water front, et cetera. Laundry is significant. So when you think about where we are, the vast majority of our portfolio, if I mentioned 3,700 hotels, more than 3,000 of them are in the United States. So we're focused on the operations.
Well, I'm actually going to end it there because I know some people have to leave, and I'm very, very strict, and I know you all appreciate that in the past about getting you guys out of here at 1:15. If anybody has any additional questions, please stay. Get some more coffee or dessert. Mari, thank you so much for coming. This is a fantastic presentation. We'll be emailing it to y'all, PowerPoint and video, so y'all can study it a little bit more. But thanks so much for coming, and let's get a big round of applause for CI and Marriott and their speakers.